Hi, I'm Stefan, the BMW DIY guy, and I want to show you how you can dramatically upgrade the speakers in your G01 BMW X3. Alright y'all, so let's go ahead and talk about this project a little bit. And this is such a gorgeous car. I mean, it's a 2020 and it's just absolutely beautiful. But you know, even if you've got the Harman Kardon speakers and you've got that upgrade, they're not as good as what you can put in. And the Bimmertech Alpha One speakers are absolutely fantastic. I've had them in multiple of my car before, and they make a dramatic difference. So if you really enjoy music, maybe you've got a long commute or something else, this is a great way to improve, even if you have a relatively new or brand new car. These are better than what you can get from BMW OEM, and the install itself really isn't all that hard. It's just going to take a little bit of time and a few simple tools, and I'll walk you through that whole process, and then you can do this yourself. Now, we're going to start on the driver's side door, but when I show you one door, all of the rest are exactly the same. So I'll show you one door and I'll show you all of the rest of the speakers through the car that are unique or different or need a little bit of instruction on how to do them. We're also going to be doing the subs underneath the seats as well. So let me walk you through that whole process. We'll get started on the driver's side door and I'll show you what you need to do. All right, so taking your door card off is really simple. You actually want to start in this little triangle of your tweeter, and you're going to take a plastic trim tool and work it between the actual plastic of the tweeter itself, or of the speaker itself, and in between that and of the frame. And as you can hear, there's got those slight pops as these little plastic fingers let go. And you just continue and be gentle and be patient. And always, and I'm going to say this a bunch of times, always use a plastic trim tool. Never use metal, ever. And because these little trim tool kits don't cost very much, so if you're going to do this work, make sure to go out and get one, okay? So just slowly work this away, and you can start to see all the little fingers here in between as this piece comes off. So once you get this free, you'll be able to get to the cable at the back of this. So unplug it and set it aside. We're going to be replacing the tweeter inside of this, but go ahead and set it aside for now, and then I'll show you on how to take your door handle trim off next. All right, so to get to the screws, there's two screws underneath that I'll show you here in a second, but you've got one screw back in the handle securing your door card. So you have to take this front cover of the door pull off. Now what you want to do is get a plastic trim tool up and in from underneath, work it in slowly, and start to get these clips to let go. Now as these clips let go, what's going to happen is that as you get this to be loose, and this being a 2020, I'm sure this hasn't been off since it came from the factory. So just be patient and gentle and work it through all these upper clips to free the top edge. As all the clips come free, you're going to slide it up and out because there's a flange here at this side that goes under a post to help hold all of this together. So again, the key to all of this is being very, very patient, take your time, and just slowly, slowly work this in here with your plastic trim tool. I've got one clip that let go a second ago. You could hear a little bit of a pop, and you can just continue to just work your way down in all of this. And I'm going to say be patient a lot. I'm going to continue to say that a lot because you really want to be as you work through this. Because the last thing you want to do is do any damage here. Okay? So go ahead and get this piece off, and then we'll show the bottom parts, and then we're really close to taking the door card off. Okay guys, so once you get this upper portion of your door pull pulled off, and really take your time in doing this, these clips, especially in a brand new car like this, I'm sure it's never been off before, were really tight. And so I really had to take my time and work in gently and carefully with my plastic trim tool to get that off. Once this upper section comes off, like I said, you slide it up and out. Now, that exposes all of the screws you need to take out. There's one in the upper handle right here. There's another right here. These are T20s. Also, if you reach underneath, you're going to feel, and I know it's off camera a little bit right now, but if you reach underneath, there are two little scallops where you can feel where there are two more T20s. So there's 4 screws total, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So once you take those out, and they're all the same, so when you put them back, it doesn't matter what spot they came out of, they're all exactly the same. Now, once that's done, you're going to want to use your plastic trim tool and slowly start to separate the door card away from the door, which I've already done a little bit, so you can see it's a little bit loose. But I always start at a lower corner, and I work my trim tool in and gently and apply gentle pressure. Now, if you've never done this before, don't be surprised if you hear a very loud pop. There are these nylon pins that go in a U shape throughout your door card all the way around, holding it in place, including kind of a row of metal clips across the top. But these nylon pins, when they pop out, they can be very loud. So, you know, you're going to be applying pressure, and then pop, you'll hear it come out. That's not something breaking. That's the sound of one of the pins coming out. But be gentle as you do it. Work your way all the way around until the door card is free, which you can see now in this case, the entire door card is free with the exception of the row of kind of this metal pins across, or metal clips across the top. So I'll move my camera so I can show down inside the door card. It's always a hard view. It's hard to see. So, but I'm gonna do my best because as you pull the door card away, you have all of your cabling that comes down for your buttons, for your door pull, for your switches and everything else. And you have to reach back behind and unplug everything. And that's hard to do and hard to show. They're not hard to unplug. It's just hard to show you. Now the one for your door pull here on the back, you'll have a big cable that comes up and a white clip, usually white plastic clip that goes in the back of the door pull. So where the cable comes in, you lift right there and then pull it out and away. That's called your Bowden cable. It'll come out. And then you're going to see plugs for all the rest that you'll reach down and pull all of those plugs. And then your door card will be free. Take it and set it safely aside. Okay guys, so a couple of things really specifically on this car. So you've got your door pin, right? The little locking pin that comes up. So when you start to pull your door card off, you actually want to lift it up off that locking pin and then diagonally out. Because at this far end, you actually have a little bit of your door card that goes around the part of the metal of the window frame right here. So you don't want to bang this up at all or cause any problems. So kind of up and out. Now the Bowden cable, which I already have disconnected here, I can show to you. So it's this blue foam cable. There's a couple of clips here that are a little hard to see right at the moment, here and here, and it goes up into the door pull up here. So when you pull this away, where the cable is, you pull the back part out to get that clip off, out and off, and then it can just hang down. Now, the other thing you're going to want to do is up here at the top. So do you remember the cable that we unplugged with the tweeter? It's on a little nylon clip right here at the top. You're going to want to pull that clip off. Now, normally I would just say take your door card off entirely at this point and plug all of the rest. But in this case, there's enough cable play that you don't really need to do that and you can save that time. So find something safe. You've got a little bit of cable length here. It's not enough for it so you can reach the ground, but find a box or find something safe that you can lean this on and give yourself enough room to get to the speaker. Okay, so let me rearrange the camera so you can see the speaker and we'll take that out. Then I'll show you how to take the tweeter out as well. Okay, so I'm just going to freehand the camera here for a minute just so you can see this because this is really simple. So you've got 3 T20s that hold your mid here in place. So you're going to want to take that out. But before you take the bolts out, to make it easier, you've got these notoriously stiff blue plugs. So I would go ahead and pull both of those plugs before you pull it out, just so you have a good grip on them. So, and again, this is your connection for your tweeter up here at the top, and these are the two that go into the mid. So you can actually take your mid out now, and then we'll go get the brand new Alpha One mid and we'll put it in, and then we're going to walk through taking the tweeter apart so you can put the new tweeter in, and then we'll wire this all back together, and then you can put your door card on. It really is that simple. Then you're just going to go around and do it 3 more times on the rest of your doors. I'm going to, like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to skip that part because it's just a repeat of the same work. But then what I will do is I'm going to show you the center channel and then also the speakers in the back. Okay, so I've got the new mid kind of rough installed here just for a moment because I wanted to catch you up on what to do and just show you what you need to do. Now, with every mid, there should be a filter, okay? So that you want to have the filter in line to the new mid. And what I mean by that is, so when you look at your mid here, you have 2 blue plugs that are plugged into the top of your speaker. Now, if you actually look at wire color, you'll notice that the wires out to your tweeters are black and green. So black and white and green and black, which is this plug right here. So you've got a feed that comes in from your head unit into the speaker and then loops out to your tweeter, because when you look at the line for the tweeter, you can see those same black and white and green and black wires, okay? So in this case, the blue and brown are the feed from your head unit. That's the actual signal that's coming from your head unit. So when you pull both of these blue plugs out, you're going to want to plug the original blue plug into one of these filter additional cables, right? So you can see it plugged in here, and then that comes in and plugs in the same position as the original did. So you plug that in, you plug your original tweeter line back in, and then up here, when we replace the tweeter in here just a second, which I'll show you, this is where your tweeter will plug in as well once we have the door card back on. So let me shift a little bit. Let me show you what it looks like to replace the tweeter. It's not very hard, and then we're going to put it all back together. Okay, so yeah, I just used a tub to hold up the door card. You know, just use whatever you have handy to hold up the door card. It's also a very convenient place here where I can do my work on the tweeter very quickly to get it swapped out. So there's this foam insulation on the inside. As you can see, it's all shaped, so it just slides out. And then you can see the tweeter itself. Now, as you look at this, you're going to see a series of little plastic fingers here that are holding the tweeter in place. And again, you're going to want to be really careful when you do this. You want to use a pick tool and just very gently pry back these fingers. And if you pry back too hard, you will break them, and then your tweeter is not going to stay in completely tight, or it might rattle, which would be a huge bummer. So again, this isn't hard. It's just about patience. Just hook in your trim tool or a pick and just slowly get some space off these little fingers, and then you can start to back the tweeter out. Once it pops out, then all you need to do is just snap the new one in and then put the foam, slide your foam right back into place, and then we can get back to the reinstall. All right, so the tweeter is done just like I showed you a second ago, all super simple, and you have your filter in line here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tuck it back here. It has a little bit of adhesive on it, so I'm gonna tuck it right here next to the speaker where it's nice and out of the way, where it's not going to be a problem. You wouldn't wanna put it anywhere else where maybe the door card might hit it. That wouldn't be good. Okay, but as you can see, the new speaker's in. I have to put the other two screws in. If you notice that, I've got 2 more screws to put in, but I'm gonna put both of those back in, and we're good to go, and you can put your door card back on. So let me put those screws in, secure this down, and then I will rearrange my camera a little bit, and I'll show you how to just press your door card back into place. And then you're just gonna rinse and repeat 3 more times. Okay guys, so as you can see, the door card is hung into place, and again, just a reminder, you put in this lead edge first and then work it down over the door pin, and then it'll hang on this groove across the top. Now, all of those nylon pins are not back in yet, but a couple of things first. So first of all, make sure that your cable for your tweeter is up and it didn't get trapped down behind your door card. That would be a big bummer, because we're gonna reinstall that last. But get your door card back on. Now, all those nylon pins that are going in, we're just gonna bang our hand to bang them back into place. But you want to make sure they're lined up. So what I normally do, we'll look down the edge, make sure that the pins are lined up with the hole, because if they're not, you could flatten one of those pins and then your door card is not as tight as it should be, and I hate rattles. So make sure that it's nice and secure. Okay, so go ahead and get all that done. Go ahead and put 1, 2, 3, 4, all your bolts back in. You can put your door grip back in with that ducktail that fits into the back part of this grip and then presses back into place. So make sure to press it in tight into these clips. These are very tight clips, so it might take a little bit to get them pressed in. And then I'll show you last, right when we're done, I'll show you about getting the tweeter fit in, but it really is just kind of tipping one edge and pressing it back into place. It's not all that hard. All right, y'all, so for the center channel, I'm gonna have to freehand the camera a lot because of just, it's a hard angle of how to fit the camera in here, or you're looking through the windshield or whatever. But obviously we're looking over the center display. So your center channel is here underneath this cover. So you're gonna wanna use a plastic trim tool again with a very narrow edge to get under this trim, because it has all these fingers that hold it down in the center. So you're just gonna get underneath that, just like that, and slowly start to work this up. Again, use a plastic trim tool, be gentle, be patient as you get this cover up. And then once we get this up, you'll see both a mid and a tweeter here as well, and we'll take those out. Okay, so as you can see, the mid is loose, and when you lift it up, you're gonna see the same kind of 2-plug scenario, so make sure that you look and see which plugs are on which side. Okay, but go ahead and unplug your mid, take it out and set it aside, and once it's out, we'll look at taking the tweeter out as well. Okay guys, so as you can see, the mid is out, and we've got this frame that we're sitting in, and it's possible that you could pull this frame, but you don't need to do that. If you just apply some gentle pressure, the tweeter comes right out, and we're gonna fit the new one in from the inside. Now, if you notice, in comparison from the doors, The tweeter cables in this case are red and black, and they were on the right side. So there's the wrapped cable on the left side of the mid and the tweeter out of the right side. So when we put them back in and put the filters in the right places, just make sure you've got the right orientation, okay? So go ahead and go grab your new mid, grab your new tweeter, and we're gonna feed the new tweeter in from below, just like this came out. All right, so as you can see, the tweeter is in, you reach underneath and just snap it up into place and it snaps into those fingers. So you've got the power, or the cable run out to the tweeter, and you've got the original cable coming from the head unit. Now, what's gonna be different about the center channel and also some of the back speakers is that instead of the single inline feed for the filter, you've got this Y branch. So you've got one side, and if you look at the pack, you'll see that it's all marked. But you've got this female end, which is going to be here, coming from the head unit that goes into the splitter. And then you have one going out to the tweeter, and you have one going out to the mid. And if you wonder which one's which, they're marked. You can see on one side it says tweeter out, which in this case is the little bit longer cable, and this one goes out to the mid. So plug in this Y branch, and then plug in all of your speakers. Now, also make sure you select the correct mid. The door mid is a little bit wider, a little bit thicker, and it's got the plugs on the outer edge of the ring. The mid for your center channel and rear posts have the plugs in the bottom right here, so you don't have to worry about it working through this frame. Okay, so that's one of the best ways you can identify to make sure you've got the right speaker. It's thinner, it doesn't stand up as much, plus it's got the plug in the bottom. Okay, so go ahead and plug all of that back in, get that all set. Put your screws back in to screw it down into place, and then you can just slide that cover back into place. You can see where the fingers on that cover go into the holes, and it'll be done. And then we're going to go back and I'll show you the speakers all the way back in the back. All right, y'all, so let me show the back door here really quick. It's going to be very similar to the fronts, and so I'm not going to walk through the whole thing in detail, but I do want to show you the differences. Now, first of all, you pull your trim just like you do in the rest. You come at it from underneath with a plastic trim tool. You go ahead and pull the two bolts here and here, but instead of two underneath, you're actually going to have one, so when you feel, you'll feel the scallop right there, and it's going to be that same T20 as well. So once you're done with that, walk your plastic trim tool all the way around and just pop all of those plastic rivets all the way around just like normal until you get to the top. And then the top will pull off and separate away, just like the fronts. Now, a couple of significant differences here. First of all, you don't have the tweeter up here in the upper corner, so you don't pull that first. The tweeter's actually in the door. So much like the front, I'm going to recommend you do the same process. This has so many cables in it, and the cables are long enough that you actually don't need to unplug them to actually do the work on the door card. So you can rest this on something, have somebody else hold it, but you can pull the speaker out of the door itself, just like the fronts. So pull those 3 screws and then the speaker will come out. But the tweeter itself is going to come out very similarly like the fronts, where it's held in by those little clips. So just walk a plastic trim tool around the perimeter of the tweeter that's actually in the door card itself, and then the tweeter will come out. Take the new one, snap it into place, plug it in, and then plug in your speaker back here. Now, make sure that you've got the right speakers in the right places. We mentioned that earlier as far as that diameter size of the mids. So make sure you have the correct mid here in the door, and then you can put it all back together. Just snap your door card back into place just like you would one of the fronts. Make sure all your cables are in place, your Bowden cable is set. Put your screws back in, your lower screw, after you reset all of those outer clips. So I know that's kind of rushed, but it really is almost identical with the exception of the tweeter being here in the door. So I wanted to make sure to call that out. All right, y'all, so here we are back at the D pillar, all the way back here, and you've got this cover that's covering also a mid and a tweeter here. You have nylon posts, very similar that you see in your door card, here, here, and here, and you've got one kind of central post right there. So you're gonna wanna take, again, a plastic trim tool and lift from the top, kind of lift in and lift outwards to get those posts to let go, and then you can just pull the cover off and you'll see the speakers here, and it's going to be very similar to what they were in the center channel. I'll show you what it looks like to change them out, but it's going to be very, very similar. So good. Okay, I'll say, as you can see the covers off, and we're going to have to do one little additional step to this, almost kind of similar to the back speakers in the Supra. If you saw my video on putting the Alpha Ones into the Supra, the speakers in the back seat kind of sat in a plastic frame, much like this is. So you can take the mid out and you can unplug unplug it. So I've already taken the screws out. And as you can see with the red and black of the tweeter, again, being here, and you've got your head unit main run here. So you can go ahead and plug this and get it out of the way. But the tweeter actually has a cable that runs along the top of the frame. So back in these recesses right here and right here, again, are some additional T20s that if you take this out, this whole frame will come out. And then that way you can feed out all of the extra cabling here for the tweeter, plus be able to back the tweeter out of the little fingers it's locked into right here. Okay, so go ahead and take your mid out, take those bolts out and take the frame out, and we'll replace the tweeter. There you go. So as you can see, the frame is off, and let me freehand and look at the frame here. There's a little ball joint right here. So when you pull those two screws out, there's a little ball joint that actually goes back in the middle of the car that you just kind of wiggle that ball joint out, and then this will come off. Your main wiring harness cable is also on a little clip that you'll pull off the frame as well. Now, as you can see, there's little bits of glue. So just clear off the glue and clear the original cable out, and then this will have the same fingers on it that you'll need to pry back a little bit to get the tweeter out. Just use a pick and pick out the glue, and then replace the new tweeter right in the same place. Put the little filter on the tweeter run right in the same place and feed the cable all back, and then we'll fit this right back into place. All right, y'all, so here's the frame. As you can see, you've just snapped the tweeter into place. There's this really aggressive glue that they used to keep the previous cable down. I've kind of fed it back through those little fingers and back in the frame, because if you remember, the frame goes back up in this orientation. So what I'm going to do is you actually can get everything pretty much all mounted in. So I'm going to mount the mid in as well. So all my cabling is nice and neat and clean, and I can fit this whole frame back in together. And again, you're going to be using one of these Y splitters. So you're using one of the flush, thinner mids, one of the Y splitters to go off to your tweeter. And you can actually mount everything into the frame, plug it into the wiring harness, and then this clip goes on the back of this frame right here. So once that's all in, you can fit it back into place. That little ball connector goes back into the post, into the hole right there, press it up into place, put in the two screws for the frame, and then this side's done. All right, so last thing is just the subs under both front seats. And a little more detailed, it's not really any harder, it's just a little more detailed. Now, a couple of things, and knowing me, I'm probably going to say this a couple of times. Do not unplug your seats. So first of all, keeping power in the car is kind of nice because we're going to need to be able to move the seats up and back to get to these big T50 bolts that are securing the seats down. So you're going to need to run the seat forward, you're going to need to run the seat back. But when we take out all four bolts on the seats and then we shift the seats back, don't unplug them. If you do, you're going to end up with airbag warnings and all kinds of issues that will probably take a dealer to actually resolve, because those airbag warnings are not easier to clear. So make sure you don't do that, okay? So first thing you're going to want to do is run the seats back far enough that you can get to this large Torx bolt right here. It should be a T50. Go ahead and take both of those out. Run your seat back as far forward as it will go and take out the two all the way in the back of the rails. What I normally do at that point is put the seat in about the middle position after I have both bolts out. Then you can just take it and shift it back towards the back seat into that space, which will tip it away and back away from the cover for the mids, and we're going to need to take the mids out. Now, really quickly, if you're lucky, and I'll explain more once we get there, but once we get the cover off, if you're lucky, your mids you can take out with just a pick tool, and you unplug them and they'll come out away from the box they sit in. If you're not lucky, they're going to be glued down, and more BMW seems to be gluing their mids down. So that's going to take a little bit more work. They're sitting in a box. We're going to have to take the entire box out and break the glue all the way around to get the subs out, but we'll cover that once we get there. All right, so as you can see, the seat is tipped back and slid back once it comes off those big bolts. Now you've got your cover here for your sub. These are 4 T20s as well, so go ahead and take all of those out, and then the cover will come just right off. Now, here is the good news or the bad news, depending on your setup. If you can take a pick tool and reach down between the metal, you can see, of the sub itself and this plastic frame of the box it sits in, and if you can pick at it right there and the sub comes up, it's not glued down. If it doesn't, and in this case, if you look, because here's where the frame of the sub, where the plug is, you can actually see a little bit of glue right there, which is a bit of a bummer. So that means these subs are glued down, and BMW is starting to do that more and more. Now, you want to unplug it, so just undo the little tab right here and this plug will come out. So if you're lucky and they're not glued down, then you just simply take them out. You can just pick underneath and then the sub will come right out. You take the new one from Bimmer-Tech and just lock it and slide it right back into place and it'll secure down. Plug it in and then you put your seat back. Now, if you're one of the unlucky that has glue, if you look down, and they're going to be a little bit hard to see right now, but down on feet, so right here and right here, the sub is sitting into a big box, and there's two 10mm bolts here and here, all the way down on the floor of the car. So when you peel the carpet up and look straight down right here, there's two 10mm bolts. You're gonna have to take both of those out, and then the whole box is free. And then you're gonna have to feed it out. The other thing you're gonna need to do is you're gonna have to start pulling your carpet out of the way. So that just slides out. This just slides out, and then you can pull the whole box out. So let me get the box out, and then you're gonna need a heat gun and some tools to pry at it, and we will pry the sub out of the box it's glued into. All right, so here is the box out of the car, and there's really no special trick to this, really, other than just a heat gun, some pry tools, and patience. You can see that there's a bead of glue, and so the sub itself sits in this secondary frame that you can see. There's a crack between the metal of the sub fits in this plastic frame that's then glued down. The extra part here where the plug is also part of the sub, so it needs to come out. And you can see the bead of glue around the outside there. You can see a little bit right there. You've also got these little tab fingers to hold the subs down, which used to be the case. That's all that you needed to hold the subs down before BMW decided to start using a bunch of glue. So you're just gonna have to take a heat gun and just heat the plastic and just work at it. And you can use a pry tool, you can use a screwdriver if you're gentle. What you don't wanna do is break any of the plastic or break this base, right? That would be really, really bad. So you wanna heat the glue up to loosen it up and start working in a pry tool to get in between the sub and the box itself and just work the glue free, okay? So just take your heat gun, start working your way around. For example, I've already tested here a little bit, and I can get a little bit of a screwdriver in right between, you can see between the gap between the plastic. This lip right here is part of the sub and the frame itself. So I can start to fit that in a little bit. So it's just gonna be heat and pry. And I'll show you what it looks like kind of in stages as we go through it, but that's really all it's gotta be. All right, so it's actually free. I just wanted to just kind of show you what it looks like. So you'll pry it out, make sure that you gently pry back these two little clips on each side so it'll come free and it'll eventually come out. Now that this is out, you can see when we look at it, you know, there's quite a bit of glue along the front. I mean, they definitely front loaded the glue. And then there's just a little bit of a track on the rest of the way around. So what I'm actually gonna do is I'm probably gonna take my shop knife and just trim off this little bit of glue ridge that's here, that's left over, to make sure that that's clean and the new subs sit down flat. So the new ones will snap right back into place. And then there actually are 4 self-tapping little screws that we're gonna put in that go down through the outer flanges of the box to hold it in place. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the new one and we'll get them put into place. All right, y'all, here comes the fun part. So I cut that little bit of that extra bead of glue around the outside off. The new one just rocks right back into place like that, and there's these little clips on the outside to hold it. Now, the other thing you're gonna notice is that Bimmer-Tech actually provided 4 self-tapping screws. You've got holes right here, here, and here on each corner. So just slowly and carefully drill those down through the plastic. Now, once they go tight, don't over tighten them because they will strip, right? Metal into plastic will strip. So just get them in and get them snug to help hold it down. And then you can just take this and fit it right back into place under the seat. And I'll show you that next. All right, also, as you can see, the speaker's in place, and like I said, you just kind of fit it down and fit it back into place, and then you put in those two 10mm at the top, and you just put them in snug. So what you want to do now is go ahead and just take your carpet and just fit it all nice and neatly back into place. You know, if it's stuck out a little bit, just kind of get these tabs to fit back under the trim. If you really wanted to, you can pull your door trim, but you really don't need to because it all just fits back in really nicely. Okay, so then what you'll want to do is put the cover back on. Those are all those 4 T20s. Just put them down snug, and then take your seat, lean it back up into place where it's just, the rails are just sitting where your bolts go. Okay, so once we get all this into place, we'll put in the big bolts, and I'll have the torque value for you in just a second. All right, so you can see the cover's on and the seat's in place. And something very important you don't want to skip in these big T50 bolts and these torques that go back in is torquing them down properly. So now obviously these are holding your seats down, so pretty critical. So it is 42 Newton meters on both of those bolts in the front and 42 in the back. So make sure to torque all those down before you wrap up. If you haven't done the other side yet, go ahead and do the other side, and you're all done. All right, y'all, go ahead and put all your tools away and clean up. You should be done. Make sure to check all the speakers and that they're working, but I'm confident if you follow it along that they will be. And these really are better than the HKs and are definitely worth the install. This is something you can do at home and save yourself the install cost by doing it yourself. And the Alpha Ones are so much better than the HKs that I put them in any car that I can get my hands on. I highly recommend them to you. Make sure to check them out. All the links for all the description and everything that you need is in the video description below. Thank you to Bimmer-Tech for making such a fantastic product. I really do love the Alpha Ones. Please make sure to click subscribe and the little alarm bell. It makes a huge difference to my channel. I would really appreciate it. Make sure to stay tuned. I have a ton of projects coming, and I'll see you on my next video.